So far with the lymphatic system, you've likely seen that we have this big theme of basically protecting the body against pathogens. We have this massive network of lymph nodes and lymph vessels and stuff like that in the intestinal tract, all returning things to the cisterna chyli so that we can once again double and triple check to make sure that none of the stuff in there is bad. None of that stuff is going to cause us to get an infection into the blood, which could be problematic. We're protecting the body against pathogens. Well, one of the biggest ways that we can get pathogens in our body is actually by breathing them in or getting them in through our food and drink and stuff like that, which means we also need lots and lots of defense up here in our face. Now, one of the places that we have a lot of this defense is in the form of our tonsils. Now, the tonsils are three sets of glands, or not glands, but three sets of structures at the back of our nasal cavity, the back of our mouth, and the back of our tongue. So we're going to call these based off of where we find them. We find the pharyngeal tonsils in the nasopharynx. We find the palatine tonsils at the back of the palate. And then finally, we find the lingual tonsils that are along the posterior 1/3 of the tongue. So the last little bit of the tongue. These are the ones that you can see if you're looking down someone's throat. You can also see the palatine tonsils when you're looking in the back of someone's throat. These are also, these lingual tonsils are also one of the ones that you can actually palpate as well. So when someone has tonsillitis or they have a strep throat infection, you can actually feel some of the swollen tonsils even from below. Now, we can also feel other lymph nodes kind of in that region too. Any of those little bumps and things like that that you feel, they're like the little smaller than a pea. Those are actually going to be lymph nodes. Now, importantly here, these pharyngeal tonsils, we're going to call these adenoids and they're enlarged due to an infection, okay? But let's go ahead and take a look at what these are doing. Well, in the tonsils, keeping in mind that these are secondary lymphoid structures. They're considered secondary lymphoid structures because they don't have their own little bit of connective tissue that surrounds them. That's what's going to keep them from being a primary, okay? That's also one of the main ways that they are different from something like a lymph node, okay, which has its own little bit of connective tissue enwrapping it. Now, these are still going to be performing very similar jobs to those lymph nodes, namely that we are surveilling the substances that are coming in. Primarily, though, we are worried about breathing in stuff. So whether it's someone coughs in your face and you breathe in their breath, or even just simply eating food and drink. As that stuff gets ingested into the body, we want to make sure that, hey, there's nothing particularly bad in there. Now, to help with that, we have a whole bunch of little divots and gaps on our tonsils. This is basically going to give us a lot of surface area, but also a lot of essentially little cups that we can trap material in. So that material can get trapped in those little tonsillar crypts. When that material gets trapped in those tonsillar crypts, that gives us a chance to bring those materials in and check to make sure that they're going to be fine. However, this also creates a little bit of a problem, namely that whenever they get trapped here, sometimes some bacteria are actually really good at blocking their exit from that. And all of a sudden they now have a place where they can grow into pretty high concentrations. This is what you see sometimes with stuff like strep throat, where things get trapped in those tonsillar crypts and then they start to produce all of that exudate, all of that white stuff that you see as one of the hallmarks of having a strep throat infection. But on the insides of these tonsils, we actually have some of these germinal centers here, which once again are going to house lots and lots of white blood cells that are going to help make sure that all of the stuff that it's coming into, or that is found in that tonsillar crypt, in that lymphoid nodule, making sure that it's not bad. And if it is, that we can try to get rid of it. Now, if you've ever heard of someone that had acute tonsillitis, this is basically just saying, hey, you have an inflammation and infection of these tonsils. Whenever that happens, you're going to get inflammation. Well, inflammation just simply means that we're going to have additional blood going through them, which means they're going to swell with blood, and they're also going to swell with, because of the actions of prostaglandins and things like that, they're going to turn red, they're going to enlarge, and they're going to get hot, okay? That is one of the things that can tell us, though, that, hey, there is an infection, just simply the fact that they are swelling. Sometimes they swell so much that they actually start to block off the pharynx, which can make it hard or difficult to swallow and sometimes even breathe. But also even swallowing foods, especially like hard, dry foods, that tends to be very irritating during those cases. In some cases, you can get the fevers, chills. Most of the time you will have sore throats, and sometimes up to difficulty swallowing. If this happens over and over and over and over again, this will sometimes be called chronic tonsillitis. Um, Chronic tonsillitis tends to be treated by going in and removing the tonsils, which means we are losing one of those first lines of defense from the outside stuff. However, if they are catching too much material, and we're not able to clear the material that they're catching in time before those bacteria have a chance to really get a population going, that means that they could actually be helping us help make us more sick than they're actually helping us by removing that material. So getting rid of those tonsils doesn't necessarily actually hurt anything.